Welcome to the Wealth Done Differently Retirement Podcast. Danielle Howard, a certified financial planner, shares insight into the financial tools, techniques, and temperaments needed to make the most of your retirement dollars and relationships. Danielle bridges the gap between Wall Street and Main Street, bringing complex financial topics down to earth. Danielle will educate and inspire you as you define and refine your version of prosperity.
Hello and welcome to Wealth Done Differently Retirement with Danielle Howard, a certified financial planner. I'm so excited. Danielle sent me some notes ahead of this podcast, and the main thing on this notes is we're covering the 4 elements of a well-rounded financial workout. I'm excited to get started. Danielle, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Eric.
This ties in beautifully with our last podcast. I know that you had Amanda on as a guest, and she really talked a lot about health and well-being and some physical exercises and stretching and things. And so kind of really works right into today's topic of a financial workout.
Exactly. That was the point. We wanted to look at the physical aspects with strengthening, muscle building, with how do you build endurance? How do you create flexibility? How do you build stamina and stability? And if we can look at that in our physical life and draw some corollaries. Have you noticed that things are changing as we age a little bit?
It's funny you bring that up. Earlier in 2019, I know you know this, we had some serious flooding in my area of the country and in Nebraska specifically. And I chose a day to take off of work and go work with a wonderful group called 8 Days of Hope that comes in and helps families clean up their properties. And we worked a full day. And I'll tell you what, Danielle, I haven't been that sore in a long time. It was hard physical work. And I'm looking at these guys that do this on a consistent basis. And, in my 20s, I did hard physical work because that was the job I had and it wasn't a problem. But it took me a good 2 days to recover. I'm glad I did it on a Friday, so I had the weekend to recover. My goodness. Yeah, some things have changed. Definitely.
Yeah. Whether it's our physical life or our financial life, things change. I've been in this business for over 25 years. And what I see is it is increasingly complex. And as people transition into this idea of retirement and that creating distribution streams or creating income from different areas, they get frustrated with whether it's the terminology, what's going on in Wall Street or how the markets work. And I think they get also just consumed with day-to-day life. And we can tend to just acquiesce to status quo of that traditional idea of retirement. And just as Amanda talked about the need to be intentional and mindful, even more so as we age, to our physical needs, to the way we want to stay, strong and build muscle and keep up our stamina, that we need to do it with our financial life also.
I agree.
It has served me really well over the years, and to create financial analogies or comparisons with things that people do kind of relate to. And that's what I really appreciate about having Amanda in and having the conversation around what does it take to be intentional and mindful around our physical life. So today, what we're going to talk about is some of those corollaries in our financial life with our physical life, and how we might want to exercise our financial tools to, optimize the potential for success in building your version of true prosperity.
Fantastic.
Have you ever thought about your physical life as a metaphor for your financial life?
It's funny you ask that because I actually have thought, I don't know if it's what you would call it a metaphor, but I always thought of it this way. The reason that I had a very labor-intensive job when I was 20, 21, 25 is because I didn't have the money that we needed, and that's the job that I could get at that time. I didn't have the experience or education that I do now. So it's kind of interesting, as my finances have increased, my level of activity has decreased. So That's probably a bad thing. And I did take notes from that last podcast with Amanda about just making sure that, we're moving more and the proper stretching and things like that. And I thought, man, this is probably some pretty good stuff. I should stop buying new office chairs and just get rid of my chairs altogether and start standing for everything. I think that's probably a good idea.
Well, we have one of those stand-up desks, and they say you're not supposed to stand up all the time, but it's that combination of standing and sitting, and one of those kneeling chairs, or like you said, with your wife with the yoga ball, and just that continuous, how can we move a little bit more, because we're spending way too much time behind the computer or looking at our cell phones or watching TV, and we acquiesce to the status quo. We move towards what is easy, whether it's with our physical life or with our financial life. And as we, want to look at these corollaries with our physical life and how they change as we move into, the traditional, whether you are currently retired or whether you're thinking about what this season of life is going to look like for you. I just think we have to be, more intentional and more deliberate about what we want it to mean to us, instead of just, sitting back on the couch or, deciding that I'm going to garden, or, what brings meaning and purpose into your life, and how do you use your financial tools to be the wind in the sails to take you where you want to go. As we look at the four elements of the physical life, what we talked about with Amanda, how do you want to strengthen, build muscle, keep that muscle tone in place as much as possible. We have to combat it. It just goes away if you don't proactively stay engaged and do things that are going to build that muscle tone. Same thing with stretching, creating that flexibility. She talked about, that just bending, that flexibility should just be able to bend without breaking. And the idea of doing just staying movement, and then after exercise, really holding the stretches to lengthen muscle. How do we look at that stamina, that endurance for the long haul, and stability, maintaining balance when we get thrown off guard? All of these areas are replicated in our financial life, whether it is in our mindsets around money, whether it's in the tools, the financial tools that we're using, or how to access these tools. And I thought it'd be fun to peel it apart and look at, these four different areas and how they apply to our financial life.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So strength training. So as we look at strength training as a part of your physical workout, that's going to help you maintain the optimal weight, helps you build that muscle mass, increases your energy level, and improves your mood. I think it's time to strengthen our dollar decisions, especially in this season of life when you might be turning off that income stream from the traditional work world and looking at how it's going to come in other ways. And we need to look at how to strengthen the other areas of our financial decision-making processes. And this may be around telling your money where to go instead of asking where it went. It is more important. I hear this a lot from clients as they come in and they're looking at this transition. Oh, we've never really had a spending plan. We never really had a budget. That changes. That may, just I encourage people to do it, whether you have all the money in the world. Becoming intentional about how you want to spend your money, use your money as a reflection of what's truly important to you. I think as you look at the retirement years, you may have a little bit more time to make these decisions. You may be able to have deeper, richer conversations with whether it's a spouse, a family member, or those who are impacted by your financial decisions. I just encourage my listeners to take a look at what it would look like to create a spending plan so they can be more intentional about how they're using their money and strengthen their financial decisions in the retirement years. if you're asking yourself the questions, is this a soul need or an ego desire? Many times as we're in the accumulation phase and there might be some more money in our lives, you just make decisions. It's a push of a button or a click of your phone, or, we get distracted with why we're making these decisions. And now we have a season of life where it's more important that we ask ourselves the questions, just because we can, should we? Does this financial decision really align with what's truly important to me? These are the areas that I think we can strengthen, whether it's our conversations or strengthen the durability of our financial portfolios. A lot of it is about making cash flow decisions.
And Danielle, you've really stressed communication as a huge piece of this, and that's great. But how do you encourage people to begin that communication?
I think, along the same line as our physical strength training, it requires discipline. Mm-hmm. So is it putting a date on the calendar that you guys, you and your significant other are going to sit down and maybe talk about your financial decisions, or the state where everything is at? How is it looking? What changes do we need to make? Maybe pushing past your comfort zone a little bit, in that maybe talking about money hasn't really been a big thing in, the work years. It's just been, fast paced and let's rock and roll and let's build up as much as we can. And oh my gosh, now we have to look at each other and have conversations. I think it is consistency, set that periodic time. My husband and I do it quarterly, where we kind of sit down and go, how is the cash flow going? Are there any big decisions we need to make, or as needed? We had a situation last night with one of our children that came up, and we're having to have a conversation about, some possible assistance that is being requested. And, just making it intentional and mindful, and that it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to enter into it at a good time of the week. It's not something you do on the fly when both of you are busy and maybe not in the best of moods.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think good communication it's a muscle, right? You've got to exercise it. You've got to start slowly.
Use it or lose it, as a man has said.
Yeah, absolutely. You start slowly, stretch it out a little bit. And as you get more comfortable, you're going to do it more often, and it's going to be easier and easier and easier. So no, that makes perfect sense. That's great.
Right. I think it's also important to, build your muscle in your savings, whether it's your basic traditional savings account or your 401k, your IRA, your home equity, and you want to do that by, minimizing the debt that you have out there. If you have consumer debt, what do you want to do to consistently knock that out and get rid of it and not get back into it in the future? If you've got home equity, it's, how are you building it? How are you going to use that equity down the road for, your future cash flow needs, or do you want to? All of the tools that you have out there, you're going to optimize your financial health and your fiscal outlook if you look at how can I strengthen the financial tools I have, minimize the liabilities that are out there, and create that awareness of how to utilize each one of these financial tools properly.
Absolutely.
You're going to create income streams from different buckets, based on liquidity or legacy needs. And, as we look at doing that strength training, understanding what the current tax environment is, and making sure that you're properly positioned to take advantage of utilizing your financial tools given the current tax brackets. So, for example, if you want to leave money to family, it's not ideal to leave your IRAs or qualified plans because it gets taxed as ordinary income to them. because we're in low tax brackets right now, you may want to look at a Roth conversion, or you may want to be pulling more than your required minimum distribution out for your current cash flow. This would strengthen what you're going to be able to leave if you have a legacy goal for your family members.
Gotcha. Now, Danielle, I've heard of a stretch IRA. Is that something you can explain to us?
Okay, so yeah, as we look at stretching it, at creating flexibility with your financial resources, a stretch IRA can be either a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. It is a way to leave money if you by chance have to leave your IRAs to family members. It is a way for them to take an income stream off of that IRA for their lifetime. So you're maintaining the tax efficiency, the tax sheltering of that tool for as long as they live. And what they would be required to pull out of that account would be based on their age. Again, there's a lot of moving parts with this, but many times if somebody inherits an IRA, they just, cash it out. Well, if you cash out a large IRA, traditional IRA, it could push you into a really high tax bracket, and you could end up paying a lot of that out in taxes. So for everybody to look at, if you do inherit a traditional IRA, to look at how you want to have that provide an income stream for you over your lifetime. And this is a non-spousal IRA. With Roth IRAs, those come to you tax deferred anyway, but to set up a stretch just means that you would be getting income, a little bit of an income stream for your entire life, which can be a nice little kind of like an annuitization.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like a pretty valuable tool.
And I don't think a lot of people understand, the idea of how you get taxed or on getting an inherited IRA and what your options are. So make sure you are seeking wise counsel before you start and decide to take a distribution, what your personal situation is and what's going to serve you best based on your desire to stretch or to be flexible. When we're talking about stretching and flexibility, I think there's also that idea with our financial tools. You want to create an awareness of what you have, where it's at, to understand what's the best tool to use for that liquidity needs or to create that longevity. What are the best tools to get you through your entire life without running out of money?
And it's so individualized. Like you said, somebody needs to seek out a professional, but for every situation, there's a combination of tools that can be used to really fit the specific need and to stretch the dollar and to strengthen the dollar and all the things that we're talking about today and make their financial future more stable.
Right. If we look at stamina, that to create that stamina to push you through for the long haul. And this is where I look at, we keep hearing, well, the 70 is the new, or 60 or 80 is the new 70. And that means that we're staying physically more active. We're living longer. But we don't hear a lot about how are you going to make your finances last longer? And that's really, really important, knowing that there's going to be the go-go years when you might want to be traveling and visiting family. And then there's the slow-go years. And then you're going to move into the no-go years, which actually can get more expensive because of the healthcare and the long-term care. And I think it's vitally important that people understand that they need to create lasting power with their financial tools, no matter what you have. You may have a lot or you may have a little. And by getting really creative and understanding how to best use these tools, given tax efficiencies, given current market environments, given your personal needs, that you can really push the opportunity for your portfolios to last longer and accomplish what you're trying to get out of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've joked before in the past on past podcasts about somebody wanting to write that last check as they slide into home and let it bounce. We're okay just running out of money. But again, nobody knows when that day is. And again, if you've got a little bit and you need it to last a long time, there's a very specific strategy. And you may be living frugally for the rest of your life, which is there's nothing wrong with, but that's your situation. There may be somebody else who has a bit more saved up, but still it has to last the entire time. And they may want to do more travel, or they may want to have a different lifestyle than living frugal the entire time. How do you help somebody find out kind of what box they fit into or what path they should be on?
It's taking every individual situation and peeling it apart. It's the onion. I sit here on the Roaring Fork River, and as I look at the clients I serve, most of them maybe have more financial resources to be wise about. And we're in spring and the runoff is happening. And just because there's a lot of water doesn't mean you just let it flow. Just because you have water coming through your faucets at home doesn't mean you just leave the faucets open and let it run. We talk about being wise with our water. We want to do the same thing with our finances. And I think it is harder as you have more financial resources to do it wisely. So to look at, how to best utilize your, take from Social Security, or use if you have annuities or you have real estate income coming in, or pensions, understanding. So what we want to do is we want to create an awareness of what all the tools you have. And we want to understand what is important to you about creating that, strengthening, creating that stamina and that stability, and understanding who you are around your financial life and what's truly important to you before we set to task of utilizing all of those different financial tools. Amanda talked about it last week and kind of talked about doing assessments. You want to get to know your physical. Have you had injuries? Are there areas that you want to specifically focus on strengthening? Who are you? What does your physical life look like? And we do the same thing with the financial context, is look at who you are with your money, and then we help you to understand the financial tools that you have and utilize maybe some techniques and look at your temperaments around money to maximize your life potential.
And the last piece of what we were talking about today was stability. That's the last piece you brought up. And when you were speaking with Amanda and she was talking a lot about this, she brought up balance. And that's kind of what I think of is balance when I think of stability. And it fits right in with the financial side too. So I've heard about rebalancing your portfolio. What are your thoughts about that?
Many times when you're in the accumulation phase and you were given a risk assessment and you say, boy, I have a long time till I'm going to retire, so I can afford to be, go for it and be risky. I have time to recover. What I see happening is people get closer to the retirement years. They haven't looked at their capacity to take risk or their comfort level with taking risk. And that changes. So you want to look at what needs to be rebalanced in not only your investment portfolio, but it may be, other financial assets that you have out there. When do you want to utilize a savings account if we come into a market correction or a drawdown season in the markets where, instead of taking money out of your investment portfolio, you might want to take it out of a savings account. So how do you balance out all of the different financial tools you have to make sure that they are, serving you and giving you that stability for the long term? When I look at, the income that's coming in, we want to minimize what's called sequence risk. And that is when you take money out of a portfolio, an investment portfolio, whether it's your IRA or, non-qualified investment, and the market has pulled back and you may not have rebalanced to have, proper allocation of bonds and alternatives and equities. And if you have to be pulling money out for your cash flow and living expenses, and the market pulls back 50%, you need to make 100% just to get back to break even. But if you're pulling money out when the market is down, it makes it even harder to get that kind of recovery. So in order to minimize your sequence risk, we're going to look at where could we pull income from and not tap into your investments. And this is, again, it's back to that stability, but we're also focused on balancing out where you have different buckets to take income from and what is the proper spigot to be turned on given, a market environment or your cash flow needs.
Got it.
Eric, when we talked to Amanda, she talked about having a coach, and I know you are a coach and have probably been coached. How have you benefited from that relationship?
Oh, tremendously. The basics for me, when I look for somebody as a coach or a mentor, is I need accountability. That's number one. I need accountability to stay on track with what I'm doing or what I want to get accomplished. And the other piece that I think is so powerful is that a coach helps me remove the emotion from it, from whatever it is, whether it's a decision for business, decision for business, decision in my finances, if I'm going to invest in something or I'm going to start another piece of the company. I've utilized a lot of not a lot of people, but a coach many, many times. And I have a couple that I use. One's more of a mentor and then one is more of a coach. But yeah, it helps to have a sounding board to be able to remove the emotion, to be able to say, okay, what are the true factors here in this decision? Let's look at it. Let's do it. And then once we make a decision, or once I've made my final decision, then the accountability piece really kicks in with, all right, let me help keep you on track with that.
Yep. And, as Amanda talked about, helping people create that awareness of themselves and educating them and maybe inspiring them or empowering them to understand not only their mindsets, but in the financial realm, educate them to the tools they have and how to best utilize them. So, the same thing about going to the gym. I look at some of the equipment they have, and I have absolutely no doubt that if I started yanking on some of that in certain ways, that I would totally hurt myself.
Yep, me too.
And it's the same with some of these financial tools and equipment that's out there. They're complex. And you want to make sure you understand how they can be working for you and how they fit into your particular life situation. This is where I think, it's great when you've got, there's a whole bunch of folks that you can listen to out on the, audio, visual, whatever. You can listen to a bunch of people out there talk about, finances, but applying it to your personal life. I think when you get to a point of moving towards the income stream, that income flow, that rewirement, refirement, reaspirement season of life, that the accountability, the support, the education is all the more important to make sure that you're strengthening, that you're building stamina, that you're in it for the long haul, that you are creating that stability in your financial life. All of these things that we're looking at is really, really important. So I just want to encourage my listeners, there's a lot of really good financial life advisors out there. I'd like to include myself in that realm, but find somebody who is going to get to know you, your life situation, and put all of the financial tools you have out on the table, not just the investment piece, but get creative with you and talk to you about income streams from different areas, or how to best use the tools that you've got to help you, create the wind beneath your sails.
And it's so important that you have somebody, the relationship, right? I mean, that's one of the key pieces I had a coach back when I was in high school. He helped me to attain my highest squat. I was going after, squatting. I really want to do a lot of leg work, and I got to my maximum of 460 pounds.
Wow.
It was great. Yeah. And I was very active back then with a lot of different sports. Today, I don't need to squat 460 pounds, nor do I want to. I mean, it's, I want to be strong, but I need a coach that knows me now. I need a coach that understands what I want now and what I want in 3, 5, 10, 20 years, what my goals are, and that can walk beside me and help me to build the plan that is best for me. Because if I have a coach come in and tell me, all right, we're going to get you to 460 pounds squatting, I'm like, no, I'd really like to be able to run more than, 3 blocks without being winded. How about we start there, right?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So,
and dealing with life transitions,
yes.
Whether, Amanda talked about when you're injured or when something happens, you can have goals, you can have physical goals, you can have financial goals, and then life happens.
Yeah.
So who's going to walk alongside you in those transitory periods when life doesn't go the way we thought it was going to go, and help you make decisions, hold you accountable, give you that support? Find that person out there for you. And if you want to give me a call, 970-927-3909. You can talk to Molly. You can check us out on www.wealthbydesign4letteru.com. I also have an e-course, a retirement e-course that is available at www.daniellehoward4letteru.com. Lots of educational opportunities and empowerment, and just that encouragement to do your dollars differently. You're in a new season. We have a lot of years ahead of us, and we want to make the most of them.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Thank you, Danielle, so much for the time today.
You bet. Thank you, Eric.
And thank you all for listening to the Wealth Done Differently Retirement Podcast with Danielle Howard. Listen, here's the thing. Danielle is an amazing, and I'll just say it, she's a coach. She is definitely a coach. She can definitely fit that mentor role. More importantly, she is someone that is easy to have a relationship with. And that's the point of anybody that's going to come alongside you with this next season of your life, this transition, or just looking at the future. They need to know who you are, and she takes the time to do that. So please reach out to her. She gave the number, she gave the email address, the website. Go for it, check it out. And also, subscribe to this podcast. The button's right down there below at the bottom. Press it, subscribe, listen to more that she has to say. When she comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And this makes it easy to share with your friends and family. Have a couple of you. It's just like working out together. Get your financial houses in order together so you can spend the next 10, 20, 30 years together and having a great relationship, being able to have the things that you need when you need them at all times. And Danielle can help both of you or all of you, whoever you share this podcast with, and we would appreciate it. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Wealth Done Differently Retirement, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Done Differently Retirement Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Wealth by Design, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Danielle Howard, Certified Financial Planner, is an investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Cambridge and Wealth by Design, LLC are not affiliated.